Hello and welcome. Welcome to the first interview in our series hosted by Pathways to Peace in the Martin Luther King or MLK Convergence. The series is titled Pathways to Peace in the Ukraine. And we're honored and delighted to be here today with my dear friend and beloved colleague, Jennifer Kim. And so you'll be hearing more from Jennifer in just a short time. So I am Tessakaya Gabriel. I am the executive director of Pathways to Peace, the organization. So Pathways to Peace will be conducting these interviews for a total of 7 days, beginning today with Jennifer's interview and ending on February 23rd. And they will be in the same Zoom room at the same time. We are interviewing incredible peace leaders as a lead up to the beloved community convergence on February 24th and 25th, and the summit on Ukraine that will take place on February 27th through March 3rd and is hosted by Humanity Rising. I'll put all of that information in the chat, but thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. And I so appreciate Jennifer Kim. Thank you, Jennifer, for being here. Jennifer is the director of the Peace School, an educational nonprofit celebrating its 51st anniversary in Chicago this year. She began training at the Peace School in 1978, the same year the organization founded Peace Day in Chicago. And I'd just like to add that that was years before the resolution at the UN that created the International Day of Peace, which we now call Internationally Peace Day. She has helped organize Peace Day events annually since that time, including the creation of materials for Chicago Public Schools. Jennifer serves as chair of the Chicago Build Peace Committee, which partners with community organizations with support of Chicago's mayor, Chicago Commission on Human Relationships, and the Illinois Department of Human Rights, Chicago Counselor Corps, and others. Jennifer teaches peace breathing meditation and other peaceful practices to help people of all ages build world peace, one person at a time. Again, Jennifer, we're so glad you're here. And so I'm going to be asking you some questions, but please don't be limited by those questions. We welcome you to say whatever is on your heart. And so the questions are simply a prompt to get us going. So my first question is, please just tell me about your personal path to peace, your story of where it began and where it has taken you.
Thank you, Tezakaya, my friend Tez. It's very wonderful for me to be here with you, and I appreciate it. And I'm happy to be here with everyone who's with us as well. So when I think about where my journey toward peace began, it's hard to pinpoint it, but some experiences that I went through growing up come to mind. One is as a high school student. I grew up in suburban Chicago, went to a smaller junior high, and then ended up in a huge high school where I didn't know most of the people. And my English class that freshman year, the teacher gave us an assignment that we could give a book report on any book we wanted to. Now that was like brand new. That was, I couldn't believe we could just choose a book. So my strategy was go to my parents' giant bookshelves and pick the skinniest book I could find. That was kind of my way of going about it. But the book I picked off that shelf was called Tomorrow. And it was a fictional story about a nuclear disaster happening, an attack in the Midwest, which is, where I live, where you live, Tez. And actually, I think it was in Minnesota, the story. And it was very descriptive about the effects, about what happened. And so it weighed on me as I read it. It weighed on me as I tried to write a book report. Like I thought, do I put this in? Oh, that's too much, it's too graphic. But people have to know, do I say this? Do I say that? And my book report ended up where I went in front of the room and I said, this is a really important book. I think everybody should read it. And then I sat down because I just couldn't even bring myself to describe what was being described. And so that was something I'd say that was kind of in there in my being. And that same year, later in that school year, a friend told me, oh, this hilarious movie. You got to see this hilarious movie. It's going to be on TV. That was a big deal. The once a week you get movies on TV. This is a long time ago, right? And the hilarious movie was Dr. Strangelove. Many of you are probably familiar with Dr. Strangelove, and that too is what is referred to as a dark comedy. I did not find the comedy, and it ends with the nuclear bomb going off. And that scene was like, being struck. I couldn't believe, seeing it, and also thinking that people think this is a funny movie, that this is somehow humor. And so that, it gave me all these difficult, confusing, conflicting, hard feelings to deal with. And so it's not that I suddenly jumped into being a peacemaker, thinking of myself that way. It wasn't at all. In my teen years, I'd say I was not a very happy or positive or anything along those lines. But, in my early 20s, by then I was living on my own. I had moved into the city, into Chicago. I was working in banking because that was a job I could get. And I just happened into a class that was taught by the late founder of the Peace School. And he was someone that just had a presence. You just felt like this was somebody that knows something. This was somebody that was connected to something, or it was just indescribable. I wasn't quite sure, but I knew I'd like more of that than what I'm, involved in my life. And so from that very first class, he taught us this peace breathing. A very, very simple, simple practice. We inhale thinking world, and we exhale thinking peace. So that with your breath, we're just continuing world peace, world peace, world peace. And he taught it as a meditation, but also as what he'd call moving meditation, because we're always breathing, so we can always call on it. We can do it, at so many times during the day. But what he talked about was how our energy, energy created by our thoughts and our emotions. When we're happy, it's a wonderful sense. And when we're angry, it's it's kind of a tight and constricted sense. That energy is working within us, but also we're sharing it out. We share it out into the world. And the world, unfortunately, is full of so much negativity. And so the more we can put our mind toward this bigger piece for me, for you, for all, that's creating in me and sending out to others that energy of peace. So I was working full time, but I started attending classes, as many days a week as I could. I got into instructor training. And at that time, the founder had just started a program in nursing homes. So teaching simple exercise and doing light touch massage and doing the peace breathing with nursing home residents. So that was my first teaching experience, was in nursing homes and leading, inhale world, exhale peace, inhale world, exhale peace, with movement and breathing, and such a beautiful program. It got discontinued during COVID because we could not get into nursing homes anymore, but we're back. Actually, I'm still teaching today at a senior day center. So, so my journey, really, with the help of the Peace School, it just kind of helped me shift my life and, gave me this tool, this very, very simple tool that really changed my life. And so that made me want to share that with others. So that's kind of how I got into this. And then at the Peace School, all kinds of things have gone on. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. That's amazing. Your origin story is amazing. Thank you. And so we all have our origin stories, and how often do we have an opportunity to share those? And so that was wonderful. So Jennifer, I'd really love to know more about your work at the Peace School, kind of the origin of that work, and really to know more about this Peace School itself.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we're a nonprofit, like you mentioned, we're a nonprofit educational organization. And the founder, who I was mentioning, that my first encounter after 16 years of my being at the Peace School, his eldest son, who had been working with his father side by side since he was a kid back in Korea, anyway, he and I married. So I became part of the family too. I didn't put that part in, but I became part of the family. But that was 16 years in, from my own practice and working. So anyway, the founder was from Korea and came to the States in 1970, came to Chicago in 72. He first went to DC in 71. He actually left Korea on his own because he felt that if world peace were ever to take root, that the United States would be the place for it to begin, because all cultures are here in the United States. But his background is not what anyone would think of for a peacemaker, because his background was, he was a grandmaster in traditional martial art. So his practice from the time he was a small boy was martial art. And he practiced different styles, but also he researched the origin, the original purpose, and found, more than 5,000 years ago in ancient Korea, there was this practice. It included meditation, it included breathing practices, and it included martial art. It included practices like yoga. It had all these practices, but those practices had the purpose of first, making the country a country of peace and for making the world a world of peace. That was the purpose. Build a strong body and mind in order to create a society and a world that can thrive in peace. And so his journey through the practices of martial art, just, even though you think, well, oh, the whole story about martial art, that's a whole nother program, Tez. But anyway, it's not what we think, but it drove him to come here because he felt he had a mission. He had a mission to work for world peace. And he felt that if he's true to that mission, he had to come to the US to try to bring all cultures in so that it goes out to all cultures throughout the planet. And so that was the foundation of the Peace School in Chicago. The first classes taught, that was before I came in 72, were martial art classes. But the martial art program in his practice was not competitive. It wasn't involved in tournaments. It wasn't sport. And it included yoga. It included meditation. This was all a practice. And it included this world peace breathing that came to him because he, being a meditator for decades and decades, I witnessed this one time on a trip crazy trip, we rented a motorhome. All right, there's 12 or 15 people in this motorhome. Anyway, we drove overnight. He sat back straight in meditation all night long. That's how he could meditate. He meditated hours a day, but he wanted to find something that people could actually do, right? And that's why year after year and decades, what finally came to him, inhale world, exhale peace. Anyone can do it. A child can do it. A grandma can do it, right? Anybody can do it. So I have to speak about all that because that was the foundation of the Peace School. And then when I came in 78, we're in one of those training classes I was talking about, teacher training. And he said, oh, we're not having training class today. We're going to talk about creating Peace Day in Chicago. Boom. He wrote a letter to the mayor. The mayor agreed. We got a proclamation. We got the city to give us space to hold an event. And we did it. So the Peace School continues to hold classes when we talk about the present day. We continue to hold classes in peace breathing meditation. I teach an online course in breathing meditation, yoga, traditional martial art, self-defense for women. And we hold these Peace Day events annually. They've gotten really big. And we hold online events. We've been doing monthly call to peace, calling out peace for every country, using the slideshow from Peace Day with the flag ceremony. So that we've been doing online since the pandemic. We have suburban classes, we do workshops. So we are continuing that legacy. Grandmaster Kim passed in 1999. So we have been carrying on his legacy ever since. So I'm sorry if I'm rattling on.
You are not. It's wonderful. Thank you. We need to know that history. I didn't know all of that history, Jennifer, as well as what is happening at the school today. So I am going to put your contact information in the chat. Maybe you can, when it's fresh in your mind, maybe you can give people your email address verbally for those who can't access the chat.
Yes, definitely. So it's my whole name, which is Jennifer Kim, no spaces, at peaceschool.org.
Yes. And if you can't reach Jennifer, you can contact me. It is Tez, T-E-Z, at pathways2peace.org, all lowercase letters. So thank you, Jennifer. That was absolutely perfect. We only have a few minutes before we're going to pause for peace and practice that peace breathing method, and then we'll continue our interview after that. But I am wondering if you'd be willing to share for just a little while, how does peace look to you? And, or what's your vision for peace? I think we all have our different definitions, and all of us to a greater or lesser degree hold our own vision for peace, but I'd love to hear your thoughts about that.
Well, thank you, Tez. What comes to me is that it's myself being in a true deep peace, and you and them, and each person getting to that place, that deeper self that is whole and full of possibility, and aching to help others. All of that is in every one of us, but it's buried for most of us. So my vision is that I'm there and living there, not just momentarily, right? I'm living there, and so are others. Then I think there is there's no limit to what beauty we can all create together. There is no limit at all.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So a part of this series for Pathways to Peace, the organization, is to honor our beloved founder, Avon Madison. And Avon passed, as many of you watching this video know, over a year ago this last October. But we know Avon is guiding and directing this work from beyond the veil, and we feel her presence in all that we do. And so in honor of her, as well as in practice for peace, we're going to pause for the peace wave. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the peace wave. It is practiced by millions of people around the world at noon, 12 noon, every day, regardless of your time zone. And the purpose, of course, is to generate that wave that really goes around the world, that wave of peace. So the peace wave is a minute of silence, a moment of peace. It was created in 1983. And the story is that that Avon got together with the Assistant General of the United Nations, Robert Mueller, and said, the resolution was passed, but nothing is really happening. The resolution to declare the International Day of Peace. And so as a result, let's put together a meditation that can be easy. It's just a moment of silence, just as you talked about, Jennifer, that the United Nations can open with in its General Assembly. And so that is what became the peace wave. And so since 1983, it has been a practice. And so today, we're just honored that Jennifer is willing to lead that peace wave, that moment of silence, that minute of peace, with her peace breathing, which is such an incredible tool to bring us into our own peace. So beginning also with that breath, that sacred breath. So we're going to soon begin that. And Jennifer, I wonder if we're going to extend that peace wave time a little bit to incorporate both the peace breathing and the moment of silence that follows. But if you would just walk us through, first of all, the technique of peace breathing, and then we will just move right into that.
That sounds perfect, Tez. Thank you. Thank you. Peace breathing, it's very simple. And as we inhale, we put our mind to world. So our beautiful planet. As we exhale, we think peace. So with every breath, we are generating that energy of peace for all humanity, all nature, all living things. But as we practice it, I think for everyone, we find our own way into it, is one way that I think about it, and we talk about at the Peace School. And that world could mean different things for different people. And sometimes that world might be your own inner world, or it might be the world of your family or your community, or the world that you're dealing with right now. The world could be the entire universe. That could be the world. So when we're doing that, we'll do some peace breathing now together, and then I'll try to make it right about noon that we'll do it in silence, to join into this peace wave that is, Tez, as you said, millions of people joining this in each time zone. So it's such a beautiful practice. I just love the peace wave. So thank you, Tez. So why don't we do a minute or so, couple minutes of peace breathing? Are we about there? And then we'll have some silent, that moment of peace. So if you like, you can close eyes. We start to become aware of our breathing, letting the breath slow down. And as we breathe, letting peace fill your mind and body. With each breath, letting peace expand, filling your room, your community. Peace touching your family, your friends. Peace expanding across your country, across all countries, in harmony with all of nature. With each breath, we let peace touch the entire world. Let's breathe together. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, world. Exhale, peace. 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 Joining in silence. Peace. Thank you. Thank you, Tez. Thank you for letting me be part of the Peace Wave today. I appreciate it.
We're so blessed, Jennifer. Thank you so much. And so we're bringing you back into our interview now after that beautiful, beautiful meditation. And so, as you know, and as folks know who are on in this gathering, that the name of these interviews are Pathways to Peace in the Ukraine. And so we're going to just shift focus a little bit around the Ukraine. So we're leading up to Humanity Rising's call to action on the war in Ukraine, which, of course, as I said earlier, is following the beloved community convergence on February 24th and 25th. So I am wondering, Jennifer, in this moment, what comes to mind for you on ways that we as peace builders might respond to the war in Ukraine, but also to all of the conflicts in our world today? What is our call to action from your perspective?
When, as I was thinking about the topic of today's conversation, I think just yesterday I was thinking, the Consul General of Ukraine in Chicago. So, there's the embassies, and then big cities have consulates. And so the Consul General is the highest ranking diplomat from Ukraine in our city. And he spoke at Peace Day this past September at our celebration on behalf of the whole consular corps. So we had about 50 consulates represented, and he spoke on their behalf. And, one would expect that his speech would be about the war and about perhaps about, a lot of things he might say about the aggressor or things along those lines. But something that stood out to me was that, I was reviewing his speech because I thought, I don't think it took that turn. And it really didn't. He spoke about how Ukraine and the world needs a lasting peace. And he did say no other country in the world wants peace more than Ukraine. And all we need is peace. And so he asked for a minute of silence, not for the conflict, not for those who have passed in the war in Ukraine. He asked for a minute of silence for all wars that have happened in the history of humanity. I thought that was very striking because one could easily say, look at my country, what's happening. But he took that broader view. And that resonated with me because going back, like when I talked about my first encounter with really understanding in some sense what a nuclear war meant and how devastating that internally felt inside of me, right? And so someone whose country is involved in a war, you could see how they could easily just be kind of buried by that inside themselves. But he had that openness, that understanding that we're all affected, and conflict in any part of the world is a disaster for all of us. And it brings me back to, just the concept, I guess, behind the peace breathing, the idea behind it, that we're all contributing to energy in, the global energy of our planet. And unfortunately, we live in a time when so much old historical energy is surfacing up, and these huge, terrible things occurring. So I guess the perspective that we think of at the Peace School is one of how, at this time, how easy it is to get pulled down by the weight of the pain and the horror and the fear and the worry and all of that. The weight of that is easy to get pulled into. But as an individual, if that's where I'm at and I'm pulled in there, then not only am I like clouding that part of myself that is open and can see more possibility and can work toward the positive side, right? I'm closing that off, but I am contributing to more of that negativity. That's not what I'd like to do, but it's easy to do, unfortunately, because we are like, and I think back to when I read that book, I didn't know what to do with all that terrible feeling that I had. Right. And I think a lot of people, that's where they are. So to me, the more we understand that connection between what goes on inside of ourselves and what goes on around the world, the more we can really find hope. We can find a lot of hope and a way forward. So like, I certainly can't speak to the political side of a conflict and what needs to be done on that side of things. But most of us aren't in the place to do that either, right? Most of us aren't in negotiations or, all these things that may need to take place. But everybody, every single person, whatever age, whatever condition, whatever circumstance we have, we are, whether we realize it or not, we are contributing energy in some way. And so it's not to say it's not sorrowful or disheartening or, there's terrible things that are happening. But if we let that be what lives inside of us, then we're like we're adding in to what we don't want to occur. So, thinking back to the Consul General from Ukraine, it's just so appropriate in this convergence time, because he ended with that quote that I think is probably being quoted at almost every program regarding Martin Luther King. But that quote of how darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. And hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. That is something we can live by. Just like the peace breathing is something we can live by. There are so many pointers in so many cultures, in so many religions, in so many philosophies. There's so many pointers just like this. Darkness isn't going to drive it out. Light will, love will. If only we, listen, if only we keep that inside ourselves. And so having a practice like peace breathing gives me a tool to put that into action. I guess that's what I would say. It's not the only tool. Obviously, there are many, but I think people have to seek those tools and put them into practice. That's the key. And not not feel like we have to do something like quit my job and go found an organization or something, we don't have to do that. We just have to live the life we're living now. That's what we have to do. In the life we live right now, how can I be someone that represents, I'm bringing the light, I'm bringing the love, right? How could I do that? And there's so many little ways, but those little ways are the ways that accomplish it. That's how it's accomplished. So that's what comes to my mind. And then also thinking on this topic, Tez, I had the great privilege to work with our dear friend, Nina Meyerhoff.
Yes.
Who many of us know from her years of Children of the Earth, that beautiful organization with young people, but also her latest work with the House of Hope and the One Humanity Institute in Poland, her work of shifting gears when the war happened to create housing for Ukrainian refugees in Poland. I mean, such beautiful work. So I had the great privilege to work with her on a program during the Peace Day time in September. And we brought together students at the House of Hope in Poland, both Ukrainian and Polish, and students here in Chicago, and students in Rwanda for a conversation. And everyone in that conversation was of mind that we have to see each other as human beings, right? We have to know each other, understand different cultures, yes, but we are all human beings on one planet. It was so loud and clear for all of these young people. And that too was encouraging, because you had, you think about the kids from Ukraine who had to just think you have to pick up and leave, right? You have to pick up and leave your home, go to a foreign country where you don't speak their language, and somehow try to go to school and try to live, and you don't know what's happening to your father, and so much. But they have that sense. So that to me is very hopeful as well.
Mhm. Jennifer, thank you so much for all of that. As you know, Pathways to Peace had played a role in that cross nations conversation as well. And such an honor. It was a highlight of the peace season for me, which we always call September's Peace Month, because the International Day of Peace is on the 21st. But that was just a highlight in all of our activities. That was a highlight for me. So thank you so much for bringing our dear friend Nina and her incredible work into this interview. And I want to say also that Nina is going to be our final interview in this series. So her interview will be coming on the 23rd. In a week. And so please do, for all of you, tune into that, as well as we hope you'll tune in for other amazing interviews as well. So goodness, Jennifer, you've given so much, and I just want to say how much I appreciate your kind of embodiment and activation of our oneness consciousness, a recognition of that, and how we, through our minds, joined with our hearts, really create the field that of peace. That consciousness creates the field. And so as a result, be intentional about creating the field we wish to create, right? Through those positive practices. So thank you so much for that. So as you know, we're being called into action through Humanity Rising's summit on the Ukraine, which is bringing together peace builders and peace building organizations from around the globe in response to the war in Ukraine. And of course, what we know is, as you said, that means all conflicts, all the wars that are occurring. And so I wonder if you have any, you've given us so much, but I wonder if you have any additional advice around how we as peace builders committed to building peace, how we might be helpful, or how we might approach our work as it relates to the war in the Ukraine and other conflicts. And you are muted, so you'll want to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tez. Yes, so, well, I would first say that take advantage of these programs. That's one thing we can do right now, because we have not only these series of interviews coming up, these summits, seminars, workshops, teach-ins coming up about the subject. And with the variety of people that will be presenting, it helps all of us find something that strikes a chord. It's really important that people, find something that actually works for them, something that, is meaningful to them. So that part is very important. And, from my perspective, I guess I would go back to the idea of how every single one of us can contribute in daily life. And so it doesn't, the world peace breathing, that's one tool. But there are so many occasions in a day when we have an opportunity to either kind of get pulled into the frustration and the little bit of irritation, the aggravation, stuff that happens day by day, right? And how easily we can just let that run and stick with that. But those are also opportunities for reflection, for trying to see another's viewpoint, trying to see what could come out from the other side, rather than, this is something terrible going on over here or something. There are, these small decisions that we make day by day. In a given day, we're making little decisions day by day. So the more we can put ourselves in that place inside ourselves, that place of possibility, that place of being open to something beyond my frustration and anger and whatever it might be, or what I consider my abilities or lack thereof. That tends to be a real stopping point. And I'm coming back to these more personal things.
Yes.
But to me, it's like that's really where it starts, because if we're not getting that personal side of it, then it's very hard for us to see that connection between me and the world, to see that actually, yes, there is some value that I can contribute. And in ways, 1,000 different ways. There's not one thing for any of us to do. There's who knows how many, and there's such a variety. We're all, we all have a different makeup up here, right? Depending on the lives we've lived and the experiences we've had and the thought habits we've created. But we all have that depth of self, right? We all have that depth where we are, like I said before, we call it our true self. My true self is the me that's beyond all those judgments I have about myself, or all those things, right? So it may sound like, well, what does that have to do with the war? But it does have something to do with it, because all that, if you think over time, over history, and all the times that people have felt hatred, something happened, I hate you, and I hate you, and I hate them, and I hate this. The energy of hatred is, like King talks about, that darkness, right? It's that darkness. And unfortunately, the recordings of that hatred over historical, are surfacing up now to clean out. So we have opportunities day by day to, like King said, only light can drive it out. Only love can drive it out. So the more we take opportunities to express light and love toward ourselves, which is hard for most of us, but toward ourselves, toward others in our world, right? In my little world that I have to deal with every day. And those in this, this sense of, oh my gosh, we are all part of this planet. I mean, this horrific earthquake, right? Those are our brothers and sisters too. And, again, throughout the planet, so much happening to the planet, so much happening, destruction and too much. But I see it as there's many problems to be resolved, right? There are many problems that are complicated, that I don't have, you, me, we don't have an answer for so many problems, but we can help clear up, the atmosphere so that people can see the problems clearly and start to see solutions clearly. Because if we're all in this energy of hatred, of divisiveness, of, anger and frustration, and you did it, and, all of that, if that's the energy that's surrounding us, and then we are living in that darkness, we cannot see well enough to know that there are solutions. They might be hard, but they might be there, but we're just not seeing it. So our little part, which is big, can be to, let's contribute to the light, let's contribute to the love, and express it as best we can day by day. And when we fall short, to work on forgiveness to ourselves and changing and continuing to move forward.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for reminding us of how powerful we are. Just by holding that inner peace and projecting that out. The personal is planetary. And so thank you for that reminder. And I always say, we build peace by the lives we lead. So those interactions that are rooted in love, as King said, change everything. So, and it does start with us. So thank you for all those that beautiful wisdom that you've given us. And so we're winding down. And we want to bring our dear colleague, Dot Maver, in through ending with the Global Silent Minute. Dot was very instrumental in calling and saying, there's this theme of pathways to peace in the Ukraine, And I think Pathways to Peace should take the lead on it, which is the origin of this interview series. So thank you, Dot. And while Dot couldn't be with us today, we're going to bring her in through the Global Silent Minute. But before we do that, I just want to thank you, Jennifer, my beloved friend and colleague. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And to thank those of you who have attended today and those of you who will be watching this video. It is our hope that you will be inspired as a pathway to peace. So thank you, thank you. And so I am going to, as promised, end with the Global Silent Minute, which is the work of our dear friend, Dot Maver. So Dot invites you to participate in the daily practice of a Global Silent Minute, the exact same minute everywhere, calibrated to 9 p.m. GMT for global cooperation, peace, and freedom. And now, we close with that Global Silent Minute, linking our hearts across distance, both sides of the veil, to invoke the spirit of peace as we hold the intention of the healing of nations, both within and between, for global cooperation, peace, and freedom. As we usher in the era of peace, and we put an end to all war and suffering. So let us prepare to enter the silence together. We take a deep breath and activate the spirit of peace within our own hearts. And we link our fiery hearts across distance. Now we take another moment and we invite all those on the other side of the veil to cooperate with us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will go into the silence now, distributing our intention for everlasting peace. We begin with the sound, the sacred sound of the bowl, and end with it as well. Again, we are grateful for you, Jennifer, and for all present today, and those that would wish to be here and couldn't. And we want all of you to know that we know you are a pathway to peace. May peace prevail on earth.